The story unfolds against the backdrop of the Cold War's end in Berlin. In the days leading up to the Berlin Wall's fall, Soviet KGB agent Yuri Bakhtin executed a critical mission. He assassinated MI6 agent James to seize a sensitive list of secret agents from all factions, which could alter global espionage dynamics. Hello, Nacho here, and welcome back again. To recover this vital list, a female MI6 agent and her British colleague were sent on a high-stakes operation. Their mission was crucial as the list contained information that could endanger numerous agents if misused. On November 9, 1989, the Berlin Wall, a symbol of Cold War division for nearly 28 years, was finally dismantled. This marked the end of the Cold War and led to the reunification of East and West Germany, setting the stage for the Soviet Union's eventual collapse. Before this, Bakhtin killed James and disposed of his body in a West German river, taking James's watch. 10 days later, in London, MI6 agent Lorraine Broughton dealt with the aftermath, managing her injuries and the emotional impact of James's death, including discarding a photo of him from a 1985 mission in Istanbul. After preparing, Lorraine went to her MI6 superior Eric's office to brief him on her Berlin assignment. The interrogation would occur with Eric present, adding urgency to the mission. Eric and a senior CIA agent named Emmett, much to Lorraine's initial objection. However, Emmett revealed his involvement in Berlin during Lorraine's assignment, explaining his presence. The interrogation was also overseen by MI6 head, known as C, observing through a two-way mirror, though Lorraine was aware of his presence without direct visibility. Without delay, Eric instructed Lorraine to recount her mission from the beginning. The Cold War, particularly in Berlin, happened after World War II, where Germany was divided into two countries, with East Germany influenced by the Soviet Union, and West Germany occupied by the Western Bloc, including America, Britain, France, and other Western Bloc countries. Meanwhile, the capital of Germany, Berlin, located in East Germany, was also divided into two, East Berlin and West Berlin, separated by the Berlin Wall. At that time, the oppressed people of East Berlin and East Germany were barred from moving to the more prosperous West Berlin. Flashback to 9 days earlier, specifically the day following James' demise, Lorraine was called to Eric's office, where she also met with C. They explained about James' death at the hands of KGB agent Yuri Bakhtin, who sought to retrieve a microfilm containing a document called the List from James' watch. This document, holding the identities of agents in Berlin, could extend the Cold War by 40 years if misused. Bakhtin, now in possession of the list, was pursued not only by American and French agents but also by the Soviet Union. On the day James was killed, he had acquired the list from a traitorous East German spy named Spyglass. MI6 had promised Spyglass diplomatic immunity for delivering the list to the Western Bloc. The plan was for Spyglass and his family to be moved to West Berlin by MI6 agents stationed in East Berlin, namely David Percival. But because James died and the list didn't reach Percival, as it was stolen by Bakhtin, Spyglass and his family were cancelled to be brought to West Berlin. Lorraine's task was to track down Bakhtin in Berlin under her new guise as Elizabeth, a lawyer sent by James' family to recover his body and belongings. She would carry out this mission alongside David Percival. Before departing, she also instructed Lorraine to search for a traitorous MI6 agent known as Satchel, suspected of being a double agent leaking intelligence data to other parties. Meanwhile, in East Berlin, Spyglass met with Percival at his bustling party headquarters and claimed to recall all the details from the list. Initially skeptical, Percival was convinced when Spyglass accurately recounted details from the document, including Percival's daily routines. However, their meeting was cut short when East German police arrived to arrest people there. Instead of fleeing with Spyglass, Percival seized the opportunity to infiltrate West Germany. When two police officers approached him, Percival immediately attacked them until they were unconscious and wore their police uniforms. Then Percival drove a police car close to the Berlin Wall, creating a diversion by setting fire to the car, which eventually allowed Percival to sneak into the underground sewer system to West Germany. At the same time, upon arriving at West Berlin International Airport, Lorraine was greeted by two men, Mark and John, who claimed to be substitutes for the delayed Percival. Strangely, Mark addressed Lorraine by her real name, despite her mission requiring her to use her alias, Elizabeth. And no one should have known about her arrival except Percival. Meanwhile, French agent made Delphine observe Lorraine from a distance. As Delphine departed, Lorraine suspected Mark and John to be Soviet spies aware of her plans and potentially posing a threat to her safety. Meanwhile, a Porsche began tailing Lorraine's car shortly after she left the airport. It turned out that the one driving the Porsche was Percival, who approached Lorraine as she parked. While accompanying her to the hotel, Percival grew suspicious of Lorraine's mission to retrieve the list, despite her impending return after collecting James' body, as indicated on her visa. However, Lorraine remained focused on completing her mission, disregarding Percival's concerns. Before dropping her off, Percival disposed of Mark's body near the Soviet-owned office to send a warning to the enemy in case their agent was successfully taken down. In East Berlin, following the previous night's capture at Percival's party, KGB agent named Bremovich interrogated and executed one of the captured individuals to locate spyglass. Additionally, he ordered his subordinates to hunt down Bakhtin, deemed a traitor for exploiting the list for personal gain. However, when Lorraine was about to retrieve James' body, she faced rejection from the hospital due to a minor passport error. At that time, Delphine secretly trailed her from a distance. Reluctantly, Lorraine returned to her hotel. Later, after finished bathing, she was startled to find Percival in her room, prompting her to immediately launch an attack. It appears that Lorraine intentionally altered the number on her passport from 16 to 76 to extend her stay in West Berlin, allowing her more time to search for the list. Furthermore, she found it strange that Percival claimed to be unfamiliar with spyglass and evaded questions about Delphine, the woman who always trailed him. Shortly after, Lorraine went to see a person known as the watchmaker and requested a watch that could help her in crossing the Berlin Wall into East Berlin. The watchmaker then instructed her to return the following day before closing time. As Lorraine slept, the TV broadcasted the chaotic situation in East Berlin, and she dreamed of James being affectionate with her, and James knew a mysterious figure called Satchel. The next day, Lorraine visited James' apartment but found no clues about the list or Satchel. However, she discovered a photo of James and Percival hunting together, suggesting they knew each other. Shortly after, police officers arrived at James' apartment, leading Lorraine to suspect Percival had alerted them, as he was the only one aware of her visit. Instead of fleeing, Lorraine chose to face them alone. Later, she met Percival at his place while secretly recording their conversation, with Delphine still observing from a distance. Percival mentioned that he would wait to see Bakhtin's actions before making a move since Bakhtin's plans were still unknown even to the Soviet authorities, who were also searching for him to retrieve the list. When Lorraine mentioned the photo of James with Percival, her trust in Percival waned, despite Eric's instruction to cooperate with him on the mission. Lorraine then went to the Central Cafe to gather information about Bakhtin from the Soviet side. There, she encountered Bremovich, who found her behavior suspicious. Shortly after, Delphine arrived and pretended to be Lorraine's friend to deflect Bremovich's suspicion and led him away. Although Delphine didn't reveal her true identity, Lorraine deduced she was a French secret agent from her name and tone of voice. They briefly conversed, and Delphine invited her to a nightclub, but Lorraine declined, agreeing to meet there the following night. Meanwhile, Percival was also seen at the club. After leaving the Central Cafe, Lorraine picked up her watch order from the watchmaker's shop, knowing that contact from the watchmaker would be beneficial for her mission. On the other hand, Percival could eavesdrop on Lorraine's conversation while she was ordering a watch from the watchmaker through a transmitter. The following day, Lorraine crossed the Berlin Wall into East Berlin and headed to the location indicated by the watchmaker's coordinates hidden in the watch. However, Bremovich, who had been suspicious all along, ordered his men to capture Lorraine immediately. Sensing she was being followed, Lorraine, as a professional secret agent, evaded capture by hiding in a cinema. After the fight, she managed to escape and went straight to meet a contact of the watchmaker named Merkel. Merkel informed Lorraine that the list was in high demand on the black market. Unbeknownst to her, Bakhtin had planned to sell the watch containing the list through the watchmaker the previous night. But Percival, who had been tracking Bakhtin, intercepted him, eliminating Bakhtin and seizing the wristwatch. Merkel then mentioned that Bakhtin's whereabouts were unknown, and he had caused chaos in West Berlin. Merkel also described the tense conditions in East Berlin, where the youth were prepared to rebel against the Soviet regime. As agreed, Lorraine met Delphine at a club. During their conversation, Lorraine suddenly snatched Delphine's hidden pistol and pointed it at her. Delphine finally confessed that she was a French secret agent who had been working for only a year. She had discovered Lorraine's identity as an MI6 agent and her mission in Berlin to find the list. Lorraine admitted feeling fearful as it was her first mission as a secret agent, and the situation in Berlin was increasingly precarious. Back to the present, Lorraine explains her mission in Berlin to Eric and Emmett. She reveals that she didn't gain any valuable information from Delphine, despite Delphine hinting at Percival's identity. Due to Lorraine's failure to update MI6 about her mission, Eric arranges for her to meet Emmett, who provides her with a secret phone number. When Lorraine calls the number, she learns that Satchel's identity has been compromised. Simultaneously, Percival has already examined a list from Bogdan's wristwatch and discovered Satchel's true identity. Later that night, Percival invites Lorraine to a bar where they discuss Bogdan's death. Percival seems unconcerned, prioritizing the search for Spyglass, despite being the one who killed Bogdan. He admits to meeting Spyglass, who has memorized the list and intends to cross from East to West Berlin. Aware that Spyglass is hunted by Brimovich, they plan to secure him during a massive demonstration in East Berlin the next day. They plan to go to East Berlin through a secret route, while Merkel was tasked with arranging fake documents so that Lorraine and Percival could safely return from East Berlin to the West. In the present, after hearing Lorraine's story, Eric reveals that Percival had informed him that he had obtained the list and knew Satchel's true identity the same night he met Lorraine. Lorraine remained silent and regretted that no one had informed her about this development. It becomes evident that Percival, who also met with Brimovich that night, is an MI6 agent who betrayed the Soviet Union. Returning to the past, Lorraine, who at the time didn't know if she had obtained the list, went to East Berlin through the secret route as planned with Percival. They met Merkel to acquire fake documents for their return to West Berlin and encountered Spyglass, who was to be transferred to West Berlin. At the same time, Brimovich and his men were ready to shoot both Lorraine and Spyglass from the building across. They were all there because Percival had informed them about the plan to smuggle Spyglass that day, and nobody knew about it, including Lorraine. Securing Spyglass became difficult because Percival insisted that Spyglass's family should also be taken to West Berlin, which meant Spyglass would cross with Lorraine, while his family would be with Percival, disguised as East Berlin police. Meanwhile, the KGB men under Brimovich were ready to shoot Spyglass. But the masses demonstrating with black umbrellas turned out to be Lorraine's and Merkel's plan to anticipate the attack from above, without Percival's knowledge. After that, Percival emerged from the crowd and secured Spyglass's family into the car, then suddenly shot Spyglass discreetly. Lorraine immediately took Spyglass out of the line of fire and into the building where the KGB men were. Reluctantly, Spyglass was left on the ground floor, and Lorraine went up to the upper floor to eliminate all the KGB soldiers. After defeating the KGB soldiers, Lorraine was severely injured. She fled with Spyglass in an East Berlin police car, but Spyglass' gunshot wound in the abdomen was getting worse. Shortly after, they were chased by several KGB cars until their car was attacked and fell into the water. Spyglass drowned, while Lorraine managed to survive. With her remaining consciousness, Lorraine wandered through East Berlin and was fortunately rescued by Merkel again and taken back to headquarters. That same day, Merkel would escort Lorraine to her hotel in West Berlin, pretending to be an embassy official, using a Volvo car commonly used by important people at that time. Meanwhile, Percival pretended to be shocked at Spyglass's death, although it was part of his plan. Emmett then ordered Percival to capture Lorraine, who had managed to escape, as she was suspected of knowing some of the contents of the list from Spyglass. Percival followed Emmett's orders, as he had planned to kill Lorraine in the incident earlier, and Percival didn't mention that he already had the list after the incident. Lorraine finally became convinced that Percival was a traitor in MI6 who had collaborated with the KGB because he was very suspicious, and also because a listening device was found in the collar of Lorraine's coat, which Percival must have placed when Lorraine went to Percival's house and briefly held his coat. On the historic night of November 9, 1989, the Berlin Wall finally fell, marking the end of its 28-year divide between West and East Berlin. Shortly after, Delphine visited Lorraine at the hotel, where Lorraine revealed that Percival had been eavesdropping on their conversations. Concerned for Delphine's safety, Lorraine urged her to leave Berlin to avoid Percival's threats. However, Delphine boldly confronted Percival over the phone instead. Later, when Lorraine went to Percival's house, he was nowhere to be found. Meanwhile, after Delphine put some photos into an envelope and labeled it with Lorraine's name, Delphine tidied up her belongings and was about to leave Berlin. But suddenly, Percival arrived and attacked Delphine. However, Lorraine was too late, and Delphine was already dead. Lorraine could only remain silent and mourn Delphine's body. The situation outside was vastly different, with all of Berlin's citizens celebrating the fall of the Berlin Wall. The envelope contained evidence of Percival's collusion with Brimovich on the night before Spyglass's death. At that moment, Lorraine went to Percival's residence, where he had just set fire to his apartment and was about to flee. Lorraine regretted Percival's need to kill Delphine, and she finally realized that Percival had been sabotaging her mission to retrieve the list from the beginning. His scheme aimed to portray himself as a hero by stealing the list and arranging Spyglass's pursuit, with the ultimate goal of framing Lorraine for the failure to secure Spyglass and the list. After Lorraine and Spyglass's deaths, Percival planned to confess to Bogdan's murder and claim the list as his own accomplishment. However, his plan fell apart when Lorraine managed to survive the KGB attack. After that, seeing Percival's wristwatch, Lorraine immediately took it, believing it contained the list. Lorraine also accused Percival of being Satchel, a double agent sought by MI6. Finally, Lorraine shot Percival directly in the head. In the present, Lorraine stated that Satchel's true identity was actually Percival, who was an MI6 agent but also collaborated with the KGB. Eric initially blamed Lorraine for killing her fellow MI6 agent. However, Lorraine's position was stronger because she had photographic evidence from Delphine that Percival secretly met with Brimovich. Furthermore, Lorraine confessed that the list was never found, and Percival did not have it either. Since no one knew that Percival had killed Bogdan and seized the wristwatch containing the list, Lorraine only found out about the watch's presence on Percival shortly before killing him after seeing all the photographic evidence. Eric could only remain silent, while the MI6 chief, C, finally closed the case as if it had never happened. This included the mission that Lorraine undertook, along with the meeting that day. There was no concrete evidence of the existence of the list, and even Spyglass, who had memorized the list, did not write it down again on paper or tell anyone about its contents. Additionally, C closed the case because MI6's reputation would suffer, as it turned out that Percival, the most trusted secret agent, was actually a traitor who aided the Soviets. 3 days later, Lorraine met Brimovich in Paris, and she was called Satchel. As it turned out, Lorraine had secretly been working with the KGB all along. And that night, she handed over the watch containing the list to Brimovich. However, Brimovich immediately called his henchman to kill Lorraine because he had learned a lot about her from Percival's story. However, Brimovich was shocked when he checked the wristwatch and did not find the list inside. It turned out that Lorraine had been deceiving Brimovich and the KGB for a long time by giving them various false information, including the fake list watch. And Lorraine eliminated them all there. Following this, Lorraine boarded a private plane bound for CIA headquarters in Langley. Emmett was observed putting the wristwatch in his pocket. Surprisingly, Satchel's true identity was Lorraine herself. She wasn't merely a double agent but a triple one, working for the CIA while operating undercover within both MI6 and the KGB. Simultaneously, during her interrogation, Lorraine intentionally rejected Emmett's presence, ensuring Eric and C would know she was not a CIA spy. Moreover, the wristwatch held by Emmett indeed contained the genuine list. This revelation implicated Percival for betraying MI6, with the KGB serving as a diversion to facilitate Lorraine's mission. Ultimately, it was Lorraine who emerged victorious in securing the list. Moral lesson from the story: when chasing secrets, remember to never trust a spy with two watches, unless one's for backup and the other's just for telling time. Otherwise, you might end up in a triple cross, with nobody knowing who's playing which game. Thanks for watching Nacho Movie Recaps. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button, subscribe for more quick movie breakdowns, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Stay tuned and keep it cheesy. See you next time.